Welcome back to Crowned and Called. I'm your host, Alexis, and we are in the Pregnant with Promise series. This is January. Strong kicks, but no delivery. I need to tell you something before we begin. January is the month that I thought everything was going to finally arrive. I literally had all these confirmations and signs, even prophetic words, everything except the promise being in my hands. And I didn't understand yet what I was experiencing as real and intense and convincing as it felt was just Braxton Hicks. See, in pregnancy, Braxton Hicks contractions are the body's way of practicing for labor. They are real, they are intense. They feel exactly like what you would imagine the real contraction would feel like, and then they stop. The baby doesn't come, and you're left in this strange dissonance of that felt so certain. Why didn't it happen? January was like that. It's not a fake month. The love is real. The conversations are real. The connection is real. The signs are real. But it's still not time. And learning the difference between Braxton Hicks and active labor, between the practice and the actual delivery, is exactly what January was for. Let's get into it. January 1st, the morning after the fast. Silence, selfies, and starting over. It's officially past the 3 days. My Esther fast has ended, and I never heard back from my kingdom spouse. I do post some selfies online, partly living life, and partly, if I'm honest, to see if he'll engage. He does watch my story, and he likes every single picture. But he didn't text me, he hadn't called me. I go and talk to my brother about this to get a male's perspective. And my brother says something that lands harder than I expected. He says that the silence is not indifference, it's a test. He says that my kingdom spouse is waiting to see if I'll just give in and change my mind about the boundary, if I'll accept something less than what I've already asked him for. And in that moment, I feel something harden in me. Not in a bitter way, but like in a clear, like, you're not gonna play with me kind of way. Like, I'm not going to shrink and lower my standards just because you're icing me out. But I also sent with something else, a realization that kind of takes my breath a little. I look up the psychology of attachment and how long it's actually going to take to shift into a secure attachment for us. And the answer that comes back is 12 weeks. And I know I've realized this before, but the consistency of this 12-week pattern really is hitting me deeply. And as I read more about it, it takes 12 weeks of consistent, low pressure, non anxious relations for someone with an avoidant pattern to move towards a secure attachment. God told him 12 weeks. It wasn't a spiritual formula, but it was the exact time frame that the science of human attachment says is required to get to secure attachment. Had I just stuck with the 12 weeks, held him accountable to not dating when God originally told him 12 weeks, we would be on week 8 by now. I sit with that for a long time. And then I make a decision. Starting today, I'm going to obey. January 1st, I'm leaving him alone. I'm going to let the 12-week process do its work. Release activates movement, right? Clinging is just going to delay things. The baby will respond when the body is relaxed. January 2nd and 3rd, 2026 is declared, and I still can't hold my own convictions. Y'all, a video comes across my feed on January 2nd. I almost skipped this one, but I don't. It says 2026 is the year of the bride. It will be a public vindication and an open reward. The audience will be surprised, but not the participants. This last line really stays with me. The guests will be surprised, but not us. Because God had told us both years ago in different moments throughout different times with different messengers that we were going to be married. So that's why we won't be surprised. We'll finally just be at the same place at the same time in alignment, ready to receive it. I clock that in my head and save it for later. January 3rd, I break my commitment. I know. I had just decided, starting today, January 1st, I'm going to obey. And here we are on the 3rd, and I'm calling him. Because honestly, the silence was just too loud. And I wasn't able to stomach the thought that everything ended on maybe a misunderstanding. So I'm sitting in bed for days at this point. I'm becoming depressed. I'm playing everything over in my head. And I'm like, maybe he just really didn't understand what I was saying. Like, maybe I wasn't clear. Like, maybe there's a misunderstanding. And what if I'm throwing everything away over a misunderstanding? Like, I can't just do that. I can't just go out like that, right? So I call him. And he answers me immediately. And he calls me by my nickname. He told me he loves me. And he says that he's in the middle of something, but he's going to call me back. I wait for that call. And while I'm waiting, I just start worshiping God and just getting my heart in a good posture. And in a humble, earnest way, I come before God and I ask him, like, God, am I being crazy? Like, please just show me what is true here. Like, Lord knows I cannot take this. I didn't receive an audible answer back from God. By the end of the night, I call him again, twice actually, and he didn't answer. I tell myself, if I don't hear back from this man by 6 o'clock tomorrow, I'm going to take that silence as my answer and I'm just going to block him on everything for good. And then I even write a surrender letter that night. Long, honest, complete, but I don't send it. God knows my heart though. And honestly, the reason I don't send it is because I'm finally getting out of that fight or flight. I'm finally becoming a little more comfortable with sitting in discomfort. So although it was so uncomfortable to not hear back from him, to not know where we stand, I wrote the letter of giving up, of running, but I just kept it between me and God because I'm trying to heal that part of me and just allow God's process to kind of work and move. So I feel like even just the act of writing it, even though I didn't send it, was its own kind of release. And I'm learning that I can surrender things privately to God without speaking on them publicly. Kind of like what I learned when I reached out to that girl talking about, I forgive you, I'm releasing the offense. And I could have just said that in my heart instead of telling her. So I'm learning slowly but surely. I'm learning. All right, January 5th. It's the 5th day, y'all. All right, so I wake up and I realize today's the 5th day. It's January 5th. But something in me goes quiet and still. I don't want to force anything on this day. I don't want to send the surrender letter. I don't want to make a move. Whatever God wants to do today, I want him to do it with my hands in the way. And I also become so much more grateful that I didn't send that letter last night because I feel like so many times I get close to the edge of some type of breakthrough and I run away. And if the next morning I woke up after sending that letter and I realized it was January 5th, it would have ate me up so bad. Like I wouldn't have been able to handle that. Plus the depressive state I was already in. So I'm really glad that I didn't send it to him. And while I'm waiting for him to get back to me, I decide, I'm going to go on Hinge. And I actually match with this guy. That's sweet. Seems compatible on paper, but he's not really my type physically. However, I'm trying to hold on to faith with open hands and being open to like whatever God wants to do in this season, however he wants to move. Although I very much believe this man is my kingdom spouse, I'm also open to being wrong. But then mid-afternoon, I pray quietly again, God, if I'm holding on to false hope with this kingdom spouse, please remove it. Like I told y'all before, that removal prayer gonna work every single time. 2 minutes later, this man texts me. And this is the second time that I've prayed the removal prayer, asking God to take him if he isn't the one. And instead of removal, I get immediate contact, unprompted. Like it's not giving removal at all. And the first time when this had happened, I went and I Googled, like, can the devil read your mind? Because it was like really creeping me out. And the devil can't read your mind. So every time I'm really praying this removal prayer and getting the opposite, that's not a coincidence. That's not the devil like trying to confuse me. Like it's literally God being like, I'm not removing him. There we go. That's the God we serve. So turns out we end up playing phone tag a little bit and we actually don't end up talking until after midnight. So technically I don't speak to him at all on the phone on January 5th. We only talk on January 6th. So the 5th day passes without a phone call. I wonder if he noticed that it was the 5th day and intentionally didn't call me until after midnight, or if God just aligned it that way. But either way, I'm taking note. January 6th, when he starts to show you what he can't say yet. Like I said, he called me right after midnight. And I tell him about these guys on Hinge that I match with. And y'all, he gets tight. Like, he is low key, high key jealous. Like, he tries to hide it a little bit, but not really. And I ask him, like, well, should I just go kiss somebody too before we get married? So, like, we're even, because, he kissed that girl last summer. And he does not deny that we're going to get married, which, I'm taking a mental note of. But he's like, oh, girls ain't supposed to be like that. Like, you need to stay loyal, basically. Then he threatens me, like lovingly in a joking kind of way, but he threatens me to show up to my house if I try to kiss another man. And I'm like, boy, but when you did it, it was okay. Well, he kissed a girl, to be clear. Um, but anyway, after we get off the phone, I feel something that I haven't really felt lately, and it's a hope that's calm. It's not like an anxious, desperate, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? It's just like a quiet confidence. And later on that day, because God's timing is always on point, my kingdom spouse calls me and he invites me for an impromptu hangout. I go because I know that I have a hard stop that night. Like, we are just friends right now. He still hasn't made a decision. He doesn't know where he's at. He's still doing this 12 weeks. So I'm not trying to mess anything up. Like, I'm trying to keep my hands away from it as much as I can. He does manage to sneak a brief kiss, and he says it was an accident. But I think he was just, trying to play one on me because I'm trying to, like, talk to other guys now. So later, when he sees my phone, he sees a name pop up, and he assumes that it belongs to one of the guys that I matched with on Hinge. And his jealousy honestly speaks louder than any words he's been saying to me. He pulls out this blanket that I had got for him with our faces on it. And I hadn't seen that John in months. And then he reads me this jumbo card that I wrote him for Valentine's Day, literally the previous year. And then he gets to the part where I wrote that I'll love him forever. And he wants me to read that part. And I'm like, no, I'm not reading that. And I just don't want to give him that validation for free because you haven't even committed to me yet. Like, you haven't made a decision. And he just starts going off saying I'm cheating on him with other guys. And mind you, we're not together. Mind you, you just said you saw another girl last weekend. Like, what? But this is how men act when you try to move on. So I gently remind him, hey, you're the one who said you wasn't ready to be exclusive. We're just friends. So how can I be cheating on you? And so then he asked me a hypothetical of if I would enter into a courtship with him tonight, like right now, in the midst of his 12 weeks. And I'm like, you know what? You're just in your feelings. Like, you're just chatting, you're just saying anything. So after the 12 weeks is up, you let me know, how you're feeling. And if you still want to be in a courtship, we can have that conversation at that time. And we also had a Pray 21 fast coming up, which would like take us into the end of the 12 weeks as well. So it's like, let's get through this fast. Let's hear from the Lord. Let's do what we need to do. And then we'll see if you're really serious about courtship. But one thing that I've realized is that growth starts when someone is willing to process. Just like a baby's final developmental stages are happening right now, even in the messiness of this moment, he and I are growing. January 7th and 8th, the week everything quietly shifts. January 7th, he calls me late. He says he didn't talk to me all day and he's sad and he feels like I replaced him. Mind you, I probably wasn't even talking to nobody, y'all, but he just thinks that I'm talking to all these men now, so he and his feelings. But in that moment, he actually offers to go to therapy with me, like couples therapy, right? And we had talked about this last month. I had already asked him to do it. He was like, no, I'm not in that place, da 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 da. And now I didn't even bring it up and he's offering it to me. And then he also asked me to cut off any new dating interests while we're in therapy. So I'm like, oh, this is where this is coming from. Like, he's not really trying to go to therapy and do the work to do the work. He just want to make sure that I'm not exploring other people. I'm like, ain't that a blip? So I tell him, like, no, like, I'm not going to cut anyone off until we at least, like, have our first session. Because fair is fair, right? And you're not going to be playing with me. And what, I go delete the app and cut everybody off, and then you wasn't even taking it serious? Like, no. So I casually mentioned to him casually but also intentionally mentioned to him that I sent an attachment style quiz to one of the guys that I matched with on Hinge, and he get all offended and he hang up the phone on me. I'm like, all right, I wasn't trying to take it that far. But then he does call me back and he's like, well, send me the quiz. And before I know it, he's taking the attachment quiz that I've been wanting him to take for weeks. And he's sitting there doing the questions, and then we compare our results together. We have a discussion about that, and then we play a game afterwards. It's virtual. And he says good night, beautiful, and that he loves me. But before we go, when we played the game, we made like a little bet, and it was like, if I win, he has to make me dinner, and if he wins, then I guess I had to make him dinner or something. But I won, so he owed me dinner, right? So I go to sleep well that night, and I don't even tell him that I love him back, because you just my friend, remember? So I don't be telling my guy friends I love them like that. But I will say the next day opens up for me with a prayer of gratitude. Like, I wake up just feeling grateful, not asking God for anything, just like, God, I thank you, because I'm seeing like, oh, this man really love you still. Like, he just trying to put on a front, but he don't actually want to lose you at all. So he calls me later that day, and we actually have a deep conversation. We're talking about God, what we feel like God is showing us in this season, what we've been learning. We talk about the ring, the engagement ring that I wanted, y'all. And he starts to almost say, like, if you act right. But he knows that I don't like that. So he catches himself. And I really give him his kudos for that. And I explained to him like why that bothers me, because I don't want to live in a place where I feel like love is conditional on behavior. Like, that's not the type of energy I want to carry into a marriage. Oh, you have to act a certain way. You have to earn a ring. Like, no, like, if you love me, you're gonna commit, and that's just that on that. And he literally tells me like, I understand, I'm sorry, I want you to know that my love for you is unconditional. Okay. But y'all know actions speak louder than words. But this what he's saying, y'all. It be saying the good. So we end up continuing our conversation, and we start talking about Jacob and Rachel, and about how Jacob didn't actually have to re-wait 7 years. He received Rachel, and then he kept doing the work for the father-in-law throughout the marriage. And I was telling him that God can just move our situation swiftly, and that the work doesn't necessarily have to come before the promise. Like, we can continue growing and working on ourselves within marriage, right? So at this phase, the baby begins responding to the mother consistently now. Connection is forming. Even before birth, the baby is forming a relationship with the mom. The January night, when God shows you what's coming. Something happened today that I want to name before I move on. I reached for one door, but another one opened up automatically. And that can preach right there. Hallelujah. So I get to walk through 2 open doors today. And one of them I didn't even knock on. It just opened. And I received this as a word from God. I am going to suddenly double everything you put your hands to and open it for you easily. I hold that because it feels like a preview of something that God is going to do in my life. January 11th, when God shows you he's been counting to. I'm talking to my AI assistant, ChatGPT, y'all, about our timeline. I'm tracking his 12-week program in chat. So I'll just tell chat like, oh, this happened today or that happened today. So it can kind of like compile the things that we're doing to see if like there's actually growth between us during this time. And chat says something that stops me cold. Chat says this 12-week program in Super Bowl weekend. I never told ChatGPT that. I just told ChatGPT the day we started and to calculate 12 weeks. And it counted 12 weeks, and it could have just said it ends February, whatever. But it said it ends Super Bowl weekend. And I thought that was so not coincidental, because actually 3 years ago on Super Bowl weekend is when we first met. So I thought that was very like God wink for the chat to say Super Bowl weekend instead of just saying February, whatever. So I was like, wow, like God is really giving us a full circle reset. It's going to be the week that we met, the week that this season of surrender will be over for us in this regard. And I don't know, like it just felt so intentional. And this is not something that I could have manufactured or come up with on my own. No one could have aligned it, just the pattern of the 12 weeks, the importance of it. Like, God was counting days before I even knew the days counted. And I sit at church later holding back tears because they announce that singles night is coming up on the weekend that his 12 weeks ends, which is also the weekend that I'm going to be out of town. I grieve this announcement because I'm like, I'm going to miss singles night. And then I pull myself together and I tell myself that God is only allowing the door on singles night to close because he's going to be opening another door for me. And in my head, I'm like, well, if I can't go to singles night, then this must really be my man and we must really be getting back together because God, why would you have me miss singles night? But the day has more in store for me. So remember that bet that we made and he's supposed to cook for me? Well, he pushes back about us hanging out. He chooses his friends over coming to be with me, even though I told him that I really needed him emotionally that night. And at first, he doesn't even tell me that it's about his friends. He kind of just like tries to cancel. And it freaks me out. And I'm like crying and I'm becoming very emotional. And he's still like not fully opening up to me, letting me know what's going on. And then once he does, he's still not being like, okay, well, I'm going to come to you at this time and be at my friends for this time. He's kind of just like, well, I get there when I get there. And another thing that was like heavy for me was we were going to watch a football game together while we were having this dinner. And the football game was special because it was my favorite team. Go Birds, period, period, period. But two, we watched the Eagles together the first weekend we ever met. So it was just like, this was like a moment for me. And I was looking forward to it. And I won. I beat him in the game fair and square. And he needs to come cook. So it was just a lot of emotions going on. Like I said, I was also just like sad that like I wouldn't be able to go to singles night. And like I'm like, if things don't pan out between he and I and he gets to the end of the 12 weeks and he's not ready, then I can't even, have a fallback to like go to singles night and move on and meet someone else. But like, it was just so much going on at once and I was overwhelmed. How I'm getting overwhelmed telling you guys right now, this is how I was in that moment. And I was crying to him and he was just like, well, I got to do something else. And I was just feeling even more overwhelmed because then I'm like, how are you choosing your friends over me? Like, I need you. And he's like, well, my friends need me too. And I was being selfish, y'all. I was being selfish. But also he could have communicated a little better. Like I said, we're both growing through this process. But one thing that happened different than the other times when I've spiraled is that I really did take this to God. I called my friend. She prayed with me. I talked to the Lord. I walked up and down in prayer. I got out my spiritual sword. Like I identified like where my frustrations were coming from. And I knew it wasn't just him. Like it was my fear of like what was going to happen after this 12 weeks, right? And eventually he actually did come over and surprise me. He stopped by. It was late and he didn't end up cooking, but he did come and he held me and reassured me. And honestly, I just let that man heart. Like, even when his timing makes me want to scream and his communication gets on my nerves, like, he has such a good heart. Like, he wanted to be there for one of his other friends. And he still made a way to be there for me too. Even though I was like the opposite direction of where his friend lived, even though it was getting late, he still came and checked on me. And I love that for me, guys. Healing is proven in interaction, not in isolation. The baby is learning response patterns, and so am I. January 12th and 13th, clarity without commitment. January 12th, we have a check-in. He tells me that he hasn't kissed the other girl, and he promises that, throughout the end of these few weeks, he's not going to be kissing on the girl. And after our Pray 21 fast is over, he's going to make a decision. Either we're getting back together or we are completely done. All contact, all anything. And he has been officially talking to this girl since like the end of December. So it's only been like 2 weeks at this point. But I'm holding on to this information in my back pocket, knowing that like, yes, I'm on Hinge dating other people and we're friends, we're fasting and we're praying, but keeping in my mind that like there's this other girl, right? So on January 13th, he takes me to get an oil change for my car. And he tells me that if he makes his decision a week early before his 12 weeks on week 11, that we can go to Catalyst together, which is our church's worship night. And we haven't been to a Catalyst together since August of the previous year when we got into like a big fight. So this would be really, really special for me. I don't tell him all this and I don't pressure him about Catalyst, but I just keep it in my mental and kind of hold on to it as something to keep hope alive for. January 14th through 17th, the week that showed me how far I've come. A former friend reaches out on January 14th, and what comes through is not reconciliation, it's condemnation. Literally, it's actually downright disrespect. The kind of message that attacks character rather than addresses hurt. I had just prayed for us the night before, and I had asked God, if it's in your perfect will, please restore she and I. The restoration that I thought was coming wasn't really restoration. And honestly, our conversation left me deeply hurt. And then I go and make the mistake of confiding in my kingdom spouse in a moment of vulnerability for me, but also at a time that he had just came back from being at the gym with this other girl. So he's very cold towards me. Like, y'all know how men start getting when they got a little new joint. They just start being real weird. Like, that was the energy that he was giving me. And even though I'm opening up to him and being vulnerable about how this girl like hurt me, he basically ends up blaming me and says that I created drama with her in the first place. And at that point, I'm regretting ever even opening up to him because what are you talking about? But then later that night, he texts me and he apologizes, like very sincerely. And he takes full responsibility for not better supporting me. He affirms me that I didn't do anything wrong in that situation with the girl. He says that, she's way out of line. And he says that he loves me and that he could have just spoken to me way better. And honestly, this is so much growth, like in the both of us, for one, because I could have taken my anger out on him or broke down or crashed out when he didn't give me the response that I needed. But I took it to God, and then the growth on his side to like just yield to the prompting of the Holy Spirit and come back and apologize. I just feel like that was just real Holy Spirit prompted growth, and I received that with gratitude. January 16th, I finally go and text this former friend back with grace. Um, I did go to ChatGPT and like, hey, can you know, write me something to say back? And then, I tweak it in my own words and I feel so clean afterwards. And I'm proud of myself because I don't allow like what she says about me to define me. I know what's true and what's not true, and I don't allow her accusations, her false accusations, to get me in a state of beating myself up, of being depressed, of being hard on myself, which I very could have easily fell into that cycle because I hold friendships, relationships so dear and so personal to me. Like, I shared intimate moments about the promises that God gave me with this girl, and she basically took it and threw it in my face. And it hurt so bad. Like, I opened up to you, I confided in you, and the very things that I told you, you're now like calling me out on it and saying that I'm a fake just because it hasn't happened yet. It was just so hard for me to gravel with. And it, like I said, it took me like 2 days to respond back to her, but I had to do it from a place of release and love. And I knew that, this is how it had to happen because I had just prayed for her the night before. And mind you, she had been ghosting me for months before this, so it was nothing but God that she reached out when she did. And so that I also have to accept that God allowed her to say the things that she said and for the chips to fall where they may. And I wasn't going to stress myself out any further. I already had enough going on in my life. And she didn't come to me from a heart posture of let's have a conversation. It was very accusational, very condemning, very matter of factly. I didn't feel like there was anything else to say to her other than I'm praying for you. I wish you the best. I'm blocking you. Like, I don't know what else to tell you at this point. The next day, I do reach out to my kingdom spouse and I send him a long text and I just tell him that I love him, that I appreciate him, but that I also want to let him know that like there's no pressure to choose me, and that I don't want him to be with me from a place of feeling like he has to people please me, right? Like, oh, like she loves me so much, so I'll just be with her. Like, no, like do what you want to do. Do where your heart leads you to. Walk in what you feel like God is calling you to do in this season. And he responds back to me, sending me hearts, saying, like, this really means the world to me. And I wait for that familiar anxiety to come, that fight or flight, the urge to chase or to run, and it doesn't come. I genuinely am loving him from a place of freedom. And if he doesn't choose me, I'm really at peace with it. Not a performing kind of peace, like I'm actually at peace. Like I sent the text, I got a response that didn't have an answer, and I was still fine. That is true love. Love that does not control. The baby is fully formed. Now it's just waiting for the right time. All right, January 18th and 19th. The Bachelorette and the Honest Conversations. I'm on my friend's bachelorette trip. I tell my kingdom spouse about all the shenanigans, the dancing, the going out, being single, honestly. And he says, oh, it's crazy that you can be single right now, but you want me to propose to you next month. First of all, I never said I wanted him to propose next month. I just said that I wanted us to get back together, but okay, man, I got. And then he goes, well, might be our story. And I'm a little hyped, but I ain't going to think too much into it. I know people can chat. But then he also tells me something a little more substantial. He tells me that he's genuinely praying over these final 2 weeks of the fast. And he says that this is a very big decision for him. He says that he knows he loves me, that we're best friends, that our callings align, but that he needs to be sure that he can accept me with my flaws and that I can accept his flaws. And this is honestly about the most mature, clear, level headed response to our situation that I feel like he's given me in a long time. And I love that for us. And while I'm on the bachelorette trip, I do continue my fast. I'm doing pre 21. And like I said, we was going out, we was doing our shenanigans, but I didn't give in to temptations. Every moment of pressure that I've had to like drink or, do things that wouldn't be pleasing to God, I was able to hold the line. And at the end of the bachelorette trip, I didn't just feel proud, but I felt clean. Like I really still honored God. And I know that God is going to honor me for honoring him. So, as the trip ends on January 19th, he calls me and he checks in on me, and I just so happen to be in the middle of looking at rings. I ain't gonna hold you. I think it's like a fun pastime at this point. Like the rings is just so pretty. So I just be looking. And of course, yes, I want to be married to him, but also like they're just so pretty and I'm just a girl. Like, come on. So when he calls me, he like, what you doing? And I was honest. And I told him, like, I'm in the middle of looking at rings. And he's like, you know what, girl, like, I love you. I just may have to marry you. I'm like, clack it, yeah. But again, I'm not holding anything too grippy. I'm like, I hear him. But I do feel like there's just like a shift in the atmosphere between us. And I like that I can hold the shift, feel it, experience it, but not like control it. January 20th and 21st, when God tests your willingness right before the blessing. January 20th, I got more bad news at work. And he invited me to come spend time with his family, the same grace that he showed me back in November, showing up for me when I needed the most. This day really has some tender moments, but it also has hard moments because I catch him texting that other girl multiple times. And like he agreed not to talk to her while he was in my presence because that's weird. And honestly, I'm just hurt by the way things are playing out. And we kind of start to get into an argument, and I do say some things that I immediately regret, like, just big dramatic. I never want to see you again, da 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 da. And it's just like, he's a words of affirmations, love language. So, like, what I say means a lot to him. And like I said, I regret what I said. I know that I need to be better with my words. God is working on me. But by the end of the night, he does like just hold me for a few minutes, allow me to kind of like break down in his arms, we recap the day, and I ask him, like, how does he feel like my emotions have been? Because when I'm high stress, like, my emotions can kind of get out of control. And he said my emotions were only at a 6.5 out of 10, with 10 being the worst. So that wasn't too bad, because from where I was a year ago, a 6.5 is growth. Shoot, where I was 3 months ago, a 6.5 is growth, especially on like a hard day like today. So like I said, I end the night in his arms. It doesn't last too long. He says he has to run. But yeah, I appreciate him for the time that he did give me. Now, January 21st, I feel like God gave me a true Abraham and Isaac moment. So I've been leading a women's ministry, Wives in Waiting. I think I told you guys about it. And I was preparing myself to lead it again, just purely out of obedience, not really desire, because the spiritual warfare that comes when you are in ministry, y'all, is relentless. Like, all of trimester, well, I'll just say the dates: September, October, November, which was mostly like trimester one, was when I was leading the group. And that's when I felt like I had so much spiritual warfare. Like, the story. If you're this far along, I went through so much. And I do not think that it's a coincidence that this was the time that I was stepping into ministry. So even though I was preparing to lead it again, it was something that I was low-key hoping I didn't have to do. And come to find out, one of the church leaders reaches out to me, and she basically says that I'm being blocked from leading the group, and that I could only do like a community style women's group. I couldn't do a group about wives or waiting, and that's literally the name that God gave me. So instead of being crushed by this and having a church hurt or anything, I actually felt joy, because to me, I was like, okay, like, I'm not a wife in waiting anymore. Like, my waiting season is over. I've completed my assignment. I don't have to lead the ministry anymore because my waiting time is up. Like, that's how I framed it, so that I could be happy in that moment and just rejoice genuinely, because I was like, okay, like, you're going from a wife in waiting to a wife, girl. Like, that's why you're not leading the group anymore. To me, that was kind of like my ram in the bush moment. We will see if I end up being a wife. January 22nd, when God uses your inconvenience to answer your prayer. I invited my kingdom spouse to a career fair. He almost didn't make it, and I hold my frustration quietly inside of me instead of going off on him. And I'm glad that I did, because it turns out he was already being so hard on himself about it. He did end up making it to the career fair because they accepted walk-ins, and he connected with some really good companies. One of the companies was only 2 minutes from my job, and he scored an interview with them. My prayer for months had been that, like, when I get married, I want to be able to just ride to work with my husband, like passenger princess forever, okay? And God had put me in a season where I was so uncomfortable at my own job that I was attending a career fair even though I had a job already. And I feel like the intentionality behind that was so that I could go to the career fair, to find out that they accept walk-ins, to tell him that he can now come to the career fair even though he had missed the registration. And I feel like God orchestrated all of this just to create a specific moment where we would both be in attendance and he could connect with this company. And I feel like it was just God's way of showing me that he can work all things together for our good. Even though I'm in a hard season with my job, like, he was able to use that to put me in place to be able to bless my kingdom spouse. After we have a good little time at the career fair, though, he's going to go meet with this other girl. And I'm not going to hold y'all, like, I'm getting a little sad, because I know y'all are new or whatever, but you've been seeing her a bit much. And first of all, you're not even supposed to be dating for real. So, like, I know y'all not together because you're on your 12 weeks, but also, like, what's going on? So, I'm not, like, brokenhearted about it or anything, but I'm learning to try to not confuse the detours in our journey with the destination. And this girl is nothing but a detour. January 25th and 26th, when God gives you the preview. So a few days later, there's a big snowstorm coming, and we decide that we're going to get snowed in together. And it's honestly one of the most peaceable weekends that we've had this entire time. We watch High School Musical together. We watch a football game. I do some workouts. I spend some time alone with the Lord. Like, I give him his space. He's on the game. He spends time with the Lord. Like, whatever. Like, we're doing our own thing, but we're in the house together. And I have a roommate, and he's in the guest room. So, like, we very much have our own spaces and everything. We're not here alone or anything. But I'm not feeling like this clinginess. I don't feel this anxiety. We're able to have deep conversations about my calling. Um, like, as far as it pertains to ministry, we talk about, what it would look like if we're going to get back together. He spends time going through TikTok. So, like, y'all, TikTok is like my love language. Like, if I send you social media videos, like, that's me saying I love you, okay? That's how I communicate with my friends. That's how I stay in touch with them. So I send him so many TikToks, and he never really fully goes through them. And he took it upon himself to bring out his phone without me asking him or nothing. And he starts watching the TikToks with me that I sent him. And it was a basketball game on, and he actually turned the game off to spend time with me. I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. And like I said, that's my love language. So that meant a lot to me. Quality time is my love language, but TikTok's quality time, they go together. um, on our second day of being snowed in, things do get a little harder. Um, so he actually asked me to leave my guest room so he can call an old connection. And it's the girl from the summer at Catalyst. And I'm like, this is bringing up a lot of pain for me. And I'm just honest with him about it. And we actually talked through the whole thing. And he's able to, like, understand why I'm hurting. Like, it's not that, I understand that you don't have anything going on with this girl anymore. Y'all strictly just cool or whatever. But it's just, like, the pain that it brought me in that season. And we were single. He didn't cheat or anything. But you met this girl 2 seconds after we broke up. Like, that hurt me so deeply. So for you to, like, want to talk to her when we're in the midst of trying to see what's going on between us, like, it just feels like a repeat of the last time, and it was mad triggering. And I appreciated that he was able to, like, understand where I was coming from, and he decided that he wasn't going to call her. Love that we had the mature conversation, that I didn't crash out, that we was able to, like, really just see eye to eye. This was, genuinely a hard conversation for us, but we handled it as a team. And at the end of it, I really do kind of just, like, take a moment to reflect on everything that we've been through. And I give him a heartfelt apology for, how our breakup even happened in the first place. Because, like I said, I do feel like this girl came fairly fast after the breakup, but I also, like, handled the breakup in a very bad way. So I took accountability for my part in that. And, I didn't put all the blame on myself. It took both of us to get to a point of having to go through a breakup. But I did tell him that one thing moving forward is that I don't want him to keep throwing the breakup in my face. Because he will always be like, well, you broke up with me, you broke up with me. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We need to say we broke up. Not I broke up with you, because there were things that you did to get me to the point of breaking up. Just like there were things that I did to get you to the point of accepting the breakup, I guess. So either way, it was a two-way street. But at the end of it all, we reflect, and we both had a lot of fun together, just getting snowed in. He does kind of have, like, a positive undertone towards conversations about us reconciling. And there comes a moment, everything's calm, it's not a pressure situation, I'm not asking or begging, it's just the two of us chilling, snowed in. And he tells me something that I was hoping to hear for months. And he says, if we get back together next month, I want to get engaged, do premarital counseling for a quick little 2 to 3 months, and then we get married. And that's just that on that. And I'm like, yes, man of God, what a plan. We love it. And I didn't even dig for a specific engagement timeline or anything. I just left it all in God's hands, and I just received that beautiful moment. January 27th through 29th, when acceleration starts showing up. January 27th, after he leaves our snowed-in weekend, And that night, in the middle of the night, he texts me that he missed me so much. So much so that he almost cried, which is a lot for a man. Then January 28th, he starts calling me babe when we're texting, and he hasn't called me babe in over 3 months. Then we get on FaceTime, and his tone is all hopeful. He's not like in this guarded, avoidant space. And he sounds hopeful about us getting back together for real this time. On January 29th, he ends up having an interview at the company that's 2 minutes from my job. The one that he found because I invited him to the career fair that I was at because I was uncomfortable at work. Like, God has just been using all the inconveniences and things that I felt like were going wrong in my life to work together for my good as a stepping stone towards what I was ultimately praying for. I get so excited that I can't even really sleep this night. Like, everything is just on the up and up. I'm so excited. Like, the promise is finally about to be here, y'all. All right, January 30th. Even at the border, there can be resistance, because y'all know how that go. So today, during Pray 21, the pastor says that Hannah received her breakthrough when she prayed for God's kingdom to come. And literally last night, I was praying for God's kingdom to come. And the crazy thing is, I don't usually watch prayer at 6 a.m. I usually catch the replay later, but I watched prayer live this day. And I don't think that that was an accident, because later I probably wouldn't have even saw it because we had Catalyst that night. So, anyway, later in the afternoon, my kingdom spouse reaches out, and we had that moment where he said, like, if I know by Catalyst, like, da 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 da, but he tells me, like, I'm going to need more time to make this decision. So I'm like, okay, like, you can have until the fast is over, which is after Catalyst technically. So we do attend Catalyst together. And before we go, we have a conversation because we always get an argument on the car ride to Catalyst. Like, even when we were together, it's just something about being in a car going to Catalyst. We always end up in an argument. And I did not want that for us. Like, we were just having such an amazing weekend and everything is just in a great place. So even though it did throw me off that he's like needing more time all of a sudden, I definitely didn't want that car ride to make things worse. So we have a conversation. I actually take notes during our conversation, send it to him as like receipt of like, this is what our boundaries are going to be. This is what this car ride is going to look like. This is what we're going to do when we get to church, what we're not going to do, yada, yada. We want it to be very intentional. This is the last catalyst before his 12 weeks are up. This is the end of the Pray 21 fast. Like, it's a lot riding on this time, like in the spirit, right? So we have these guidelines, and then he picks me up for Catalyst, and in the car on the way there, the way that it always is, the way that it's always been, we still end up running into tension. And we get into an argument, and he breaks the guidelines that we had agreed upon, and he basically kind of like gaslights me and says that he never fully agreed to the guidelines, even though he saw my message and hearted my message. Like, we had the conversation verbally, and then I put it in writing, and he hearted it. And he talked about, well, that wasn't him agreeing to the guidelines. And one of them was that we were going to have intentional conversations at a certain point in the car ride, and then we were going to listen to music at a certain point in the car ride, because I like to converse and he likes to listen to music. But he decided that he gonna blast his music instead of having the conversation. And we were at a point in the conversation where it was like getting really deep, and he was just like, yeah, like, I just feel like I want to listen to music. And that really just messed me up. And then, like I said, he was kind of like gaslighting me about it, like, oh, well, I just want to spend time and worship with God. Like, how you gonna come in between me and God and worship? And I'm like, bro, like, don't even do that, because that's not what this is. Like, that's not what I was trying to do. Like, oh. So we got into an argument, to say nonetheless. And things started escalating. And honestly, I called him out of his name in frustration. But it was just like I did when we went in January on the day we went to the museum or whatever. And like I said before, I know that this is something that God is working on me in, but his love language is words of affirmation. So I keep saying these off the wall things, and he's taking it to heart. And I'm feeling so bad, but also I'm just so frustrated, because like, we had something in writing and you still, like, you're making me feel crazy. And so basically the conversation just gets out of hand, and he's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore with you. We get to church, he gets out the car, and I started breaking down crying because like I know he's not just saying like I'm done the car ride. Like he's saying I'm done trying to work on this. Like it's not happening. Like, we were this is the end of week 11, so it was near decision time. Um so he gets out the car, he's upset, I start crying. So then he comes back, we do talk briefly, we both apologize to each other. When we get to church, one of our guidelines was to sit separately because we were supposed to be focusing on the message and like just really hearing from God. So we do stick to that one, of course. Um, and the message is on Abraham and Sarah. And I felt like, the way that the pastor was conveying it really spoke directly to our situation. Like, he was even talking about how Sarah basically, like, told Abraham to go get a Hagar. And at one point in our relationship, I did the same thing. Like, when I broke up with him, I was like, oh, like, go explore, like, yada, yada. Because I thought it was just, like, something he needed to get out of his system. But it's like, if God already gave you a promise with this man, why would you send this man with other women? Like, girl, what is wrong with you? So yeah, God like really ate me up all the way in that sermon. um, and there was like other parts I feel like that touched on, the way that he was handling things as well. So it was just a message that really spoke to us both directly. After Catalyst and the car ride back, he's dropping me home. He did say like he needed to process the sermon, and that honestly right now after everything that had happened that night, he's leaning away from moving forward with me anymore. And he starts bringing up the whole like having multiple options things, and he says, oh, the other girl like is easy as light with her, there's no pressure there. And it's just like, well, of course, you just met the child a few weeks ago. Like, whereas we've been in this for years. And, I do understand the fun, light nature and, that honeymoon phase. It's a vibe. But it's like, the reality is that that doesn't last forever. And, like, you're going to have to face, hard decisions and difficulties with whomever you choose. So it's like, why can't we just work through this? Like, I'm willing and ready to show up and put in the work. And it seemed like he was. And then after tonight, I wasn't so sure anymore. So once I get home that night, I end up breaking my fast, y'all. I don't even know if I mentioned, but I ended up doing a fast that day because, like I said, I know we always have some drama on our way to Catalyst, and I just really wanted to not be operating in my flesh. But unfortunately, I still fell privy to that. So once I get home, I just break my fast. I call it a night. And he and I both agree that we're going to go to prayer in the morning at our separate campuses, and then we'll meet up after prayer to kind of like talk through what the final decision is going to be. Um, I think of this as kind of like pre-labor contractions, like the pain but no delivery, a Braxton Hicks, even if you will. And it's like we're at the edge of breakthrough, but yet there's still so much resistance coming up. January 31st, when faith almost breaks, the fast ends. Pray 21. He actually didn't even go to prayer at his campus that morning. He didn't call me. Nothing externally changed. When I get to prayer at my campus, I walk in there and I write on that little prayer card and I repent. And I apologize to God for believing in something that didn't come to pass. Because I know God don't lie. So then that means like I was lying. Like I know I wasn't lying, but like I was wrong. And it can be seen as a lie. So I apologize to God for everyone that I've negatively affected with my crazy faith. And I just confess to God, like, I must have just heard you wrong. And I give up all my faith on this kingdom spouse and this marriage promise. And I let it go. And I'm not giving up on faith in God, but I'm giving up on faith in a kingdom spouse. I'm giving up on faith in restoration. I'm giving up on us, me and this guy. And after church, I process it with my brother. And he tells me like about the concept of having blind faith, in that, if we take a scripture and just apply it to our situation, sometimes it doesn't always necessarily fit. And honestly, I feel so defeated that day, like truly defeated. Like, I just feel defeated. Like, girl, like you went through so much, all of these highs and lows and holding on to faith and learning and growing, all of that for nothing. Like, I don't want to say nothing, because sure, I grew internally, but like, I was wrong. And I felt that. And then I started talking to another family member, and as I was talking to her, something in our conversation just made me feel like I had to stand back on 10 toes. Like, no, 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 no. Like, I cannot just give up like this. And by the end of the night, I end up coming across a TikTok, as they always pop up when I need them. And it said, "You're not crazy. You didn't hear God wrong." And honestly, that just hit me. Because the truth is, like, I can't really unsee what I've seen. I can't unfeel what I felt. Like, I can't take away all the crazy experiences and just call it a coincidence, when in my heart of hearts I know that it was something deeper than that. The yellow cars, the deer in the video, the 12 weeks aligning with the same time that we met, like the December 7th date being literally written in Zechariah, like the prophecy about June 2026 coming from two completely different sources that didn't know each other or me. Like, there were just so many things that had happened throughout this journey that I'm just like, how can I just quit just because my situation looks dead? Like, I can't just dismantle everything that I built my faith about because of one Sunday of defeat. So I decide I won't. I won't give up. And I make a declaration that is quiet but complete. The absence of manifestation does not mean the absence of movement. Faith has to outlast timelines. Whew, child. Here's what I understand now as I look back on January. Braxton Hicks do not feel fake. They feel like this is it. They feel like it's finally happening. They feel like the wait is over. And then everything just stops. And you're left asking God, why would you let it feel this real if it wasn't even time? But it's because practice is preparation. God was showing me what healthy conversations will look like, what emotional regulation looks like, what partnership looks like, what I'm capable of when I'm feeling secure, when I'm in a surrendered version of myself. So without releasing the full promise yet, January wasn't really a setback. It was training. It was my spirit learning how to breathe through contractions without forcing delivery. And now, as the second trimester ends, and I'm going into the third trimester starting in February, I thought, now it finally happens. I have all these confirmations, I have the signs, I have the internal peace, I have these near moments. I thought all that was left was going to be manifestation. But what I didn't know was this: the third trimester isn't about manifestation first, it's about surrender first. Because at some point, God will let you feel it, see glimpses of it, get close to it, and then ask you, do you trust me even if I don't do it the way you think I will? See, this upcoming third trimester is where faith is going to get stretched to its limit, where control is fully stripped, where love is tested without guarantees, and where surrender becomes not a decision you make once, but a posture you have to live inside. It's where I stopped asking for signs and started standing on what God already said. There were moments coming where I saw things that I didn't want to see, felt things that I didn't expect to feel, and I had to decide, am I going to trust in God or am I going to track a pattern? And that's the difference between feeling the promise and becoming the person who can carry it to completion. If trimester 2 was I feel it, but I don't see it fully, then maybe trimester 3 will become, even if I don't see it the way I imagined, I can still trust God. I'll be honest though, I didn't just want a marriage. I want Him. The man I grew with, the man I love, the man who feels like my best friend sometimes. And I had to come to terms with something that was really hard to accept. What if God fulfills the promise, but not exactly the way I imagined? I still believe God could do it with him. I still believe in restoration. I still believe that God can rise him up into the man that I need. can be the man I need. Mm-mm-mm. But I also started to understand if it's going to be him, it's not going to come from almost moments. It's not going to come from emotional conversations and back and forth cycles. It's going to come from clarity, a decision, full pursuit. And if it don't come that way, maybe God wasn't taking something from me. Maybe it wasn't a loss. Maybe God is protecting me from settling for a counterfeit version of the promise. So I found myself holding two truths at once. I believe God can do it with him, but I trust God enough to allow him to do it however he wants. And that's where everything shifted. Because now I'm not chasing signs, I'm not forcing outcomes, I'm not trying to make something happen just because I feel it. I'm standing, I'm trusting, I'm surrendered, and I don't know exactly how the story is going to end yet. But I do know this: the next time something happens, it's not going to be confusing, it's not going to be inconsistent, it's not going to be an almost, it's going to be clear, whether that be with him or with someone else. So, whether this promise comes through restoration or revelation, I'll be ready because God's preparing me. And if I'm being completely honest, my heart still hopes for restoration. Not just marriage, but marriage with Him. I still believe God can restore us. But I've come to a place where I've told God, until my due date, I'm going to believe for restoration. I'm going to stand on what I feel like you already showed me. I'm going to hold on the hope of it being Him. But if it gets to the point where it's not, and it doesn't happen the way that I was believing, I still trust in you enough, God, to receive whatever new revelation you have for me. Not because I stopped believing, but because I believe in God more than I believe in my interpretation. My heart still wants restoration. I'm still hoping it's him. I love this man down bad. But my posture is no longer, God, it has to be him. It's now, God, I trust you, even if it's not him. And that right there is where everything changes. Because now I'm not holding on to my kingdom spouse or a promise. I'm holding on to God. I'm holding on to a promise keeper. And whatever God does next, however He does it, whether restoration or revelation of something new, I will be ready. And that is what's going to bring us to the third trimester. Because this next phase isn't about what I feel anymore. It's about fully letting go and trusting God with the outcome. And I can't wait to tell y'all what happens next.